Welcome to AstroTwins Radio, your cosmic GPS for life, love, and everything written in the stars. We're Tali and Ophira Edut, the AstroTwins, here to decode the astrology of the moment and help you navigate your destiny like a pro.
Okay, here we are, everyone. It's the week of May 4th to 10th. And I get to say it. May the 4th be with you.
Yes.
Dad joke time.
A time to be alive, I guess. But here we are. Ophi here in New York, back from Miami.
Well, I'm on the opposite corner of the country in summery Seattle. May the 4th be with you, and dad jokes lead to a week that ends with Mother's Day on the 10th. So we are still all getting ourselves immersed in the new energy of one of the big transits that's happening this year, this decade, which is Uranus's entry into Gemini. Uranus is the planet of disruption, innovation. It's the ruler of Aquarius, the only planet that spins on its side. It does things its own way, and it changes signs every 7 to 8 years. It already gave us a little preview of its Gemini tour last year from July 7th to November 7th, and then it went back into Taurus. Taurus was the sign it was in since May of 2018, and very different energy. Uranus is in fall, as astrologers say, in Taurus, the essential dignity. It's a very uncomfortable fit, this innovative planet that likes to shake things up in a very stable, consistent, routine-driven earth sign. And now it's in a happier place for itself in Gemini, but the question comes in, is that going to power up all these technocrats? I think one of the big news items that we're coming into this week with is that the Supreme Court made a decision to overturn part of the Voting Rights Act, which goes back to Martin Luther King's work during the Civil Rights Movement, 1965, the year of the snake. So, that was last
Legacy
year.
there, yeah. The wood
And
snake, too. So it was 60 years ago.
yeah, and what this means is that districts can basically gerrymander. They can, we had representation in civil rights. If there's a majority Black district, they were, given representatives of their community and culture. Now, Justice John Roberts, Chief Justice John Roberts, who sadly is an Aquarius, and he probably has Pluto going over his sun, so he's the current Darth Vader.
Yeah.
He's a very conservative justice, although they say he's moderately conservative, but he's, systematically, been kind of on a mission to overturn things like this. And so
Aquarians are really a paradox. They can be some of the most amazing people and some of the worst. It's a sign of emotional detachment, but also progress and science and innovation. So you have this whole spectrum, and at the shadowy end of the spectrum are the ones who are just completely cut off from their emotions. Justice John Roberts, Mike Johnson, Jeffrey Epstein, all Aquarians. Jerome Powell from the Fed, who was fighting with Trump, he's an Aquarius.
Well, if you ask them, they probably don't think they're cut off from their hearts. They probably think that they're,
rational,
rationally spearheading
emotionally intelligent,
or
and
a
not
mission. Aquarians, a lot of Aquarians think that they, are saving humanity, but they probably feel like they're, it's just that dispassionate. Jeffrey Epstein doesn't count in this, but I'm talking about maybe Mike Johnson and uh, Justice Roberts, how they might
Based on their values and their view of the
exactly.
world, they probably feel like they're these heroic figures, but their values are so narrow and,
And they're
just
doing it very dispassionately in that way that is disconnected from,
it's also
what's
not
actually
aligned.
happening.
Yeah, it's also not aligned with the oaths they took to it's so
Mhm.
clearly, and it makes me believe in reincarnation because we keep recycling the same hate and biases over and over again. It's representation for a few, not all.
Well, that's
And
one of
this,
the things that, Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto will be its own form of Darth Vader, forcing that, it can burn things down and force the rebellion, the transformation, the phoenix to rise from the ashes. So, what has happened now is that now states, starting with Louisiana, they've already postponed their primaries so they can
yeah, I
redraw their
saw that.
districting maps. And we're going to start to see a lot of states, maybe both blue and red states, redrawing maps in there to favor the outcome they want. And
I mean, it's so we've really gotten to a place where it's like, do whatever you want. No one's going to stop you. Be as racist as you want to be because you can get away with that now.
well, it's been happening all along. Now it's just done blatantly, openly, in plain sight. Not to leave us all dangling in doom and gloom. Like, what does this? What does this mean now that Uranus has moved into Gemini, where it was actually during World War II, the Civil War, and the American Revolution? We talked about that a lot more on last week's podcast, but I think that what we may see, Uranus is unconventional, surprising. Gemini is the sign of the twins, alliances. Just like with the civil rights movement, it depended on alliances. There were a lot of Jewish members of the Jewish community who were involved along with Black citizens and neighbors in the civil. So who are the allies? Like, is this like looking for some silver lining? There could be surprising alliances, I think, that emerge out of this. I was saying earlier, like
Say
the
that.
price of gas has gone sky high, but I think what we're gonna see here, as the summer rolls on, is the price of gaslighting starting to also come at a cost to Americans. I mean, there's still people standing behind MAGA, but a lot of people are turning their backs on it and just saying no to it. I mean, the all the promises, no more forever wars, gas
Hmm.
prices, food prices will go down. Like everything has been a betrayal. And then you watch the surveillance state being promoted by, Larry Ellison and Sam Altman and all these, AI and tech and, drone builders out there, all the gazillionaires. They want to surveil you. They want access to controlling people. They think that that's the way to change society. And
Well, I've been hearing about a book. I haven't read it yet, but it feels very Pluto retrograde and Uranus and Gemini. It's called The Beginning Comes After the End, and it's written by a Cancerian writer and activist named Rebecca Solnit, and
hmm,
notes on a world of change. And the person I saw talking about it is a reporter, and she was just saying, like, oh, this is kind of making sense out of what I think that's what we're going to be looking for with Uranus out of Taurus, and now in Gemini, which is activating we're out of this sort of passive or stuck mode. Now we're asking questions, thinking more critically. So I think we're going to be looking for, like, all right, we've gotten used to expecting lies, expecting people to do whatever they want to do to manipulate. But we're
Yeah.
we're we're entering a new kind of wiser phase. I don't want to
I
just
mean, I hope so. I mean, it's interesting. I was
some
just,
people, not everyone, but some people. We're just are getting to the point of like, well, what do we do now
yeah,
that we
we
haven't
have to.
tried before?
Uranus and Gemini, I think, will make room for strategy. Like, I mean, protests are important, but they haven't, all they've done is brought people together to, in a lot of ways to see that we're not alone, but like they're not, they're a foundational thing, but they're not changing laws. They're not putting the pressure on. I think that is moving the needle. Let's put a quick pin in this because we have a word from our podcast's first ever sponsor, Ophi.
Our very first sponsor, the Apollo wearable, is one that's close to my heart, literally. It just so happens to be tucked into my bra right now. The Apollo is a wearable device that delivers silent, soothing sound wave vibrations to the body that signals safety to the brain through the sense of touch, similar to how your body responds to a hug or snuggling a pet. I met the founder of the Apollo a couple years ago while I was speaking at the Milken Global Conference. He gave me his device to wear during my talk, and I was amazed by how in the zone I was. In fact, when I finished, Holly was like, "Wow, you were really focused." Well, I came to find out that he had set the device to focus mode, and I was intrigued. So I got one for myself, and I've been wearing it almost every day for 2 years. So, what really impressed me about the Apollo is that it's based on over 60 years of neuroscience research and has been validated in 17 clinical trials. It's the first wearable technology to improve sleep, heart rate variability, and energy just by wearing it. And I can attest to that. I change up the settings depending on whether I want to wind down or perk up or get into the zone. And it has this patented low frequency bass vibrations that actually modulate your vagus nerve activity. That's a big thing I've
Hmm.
heard people talking about. Again, I can attest to that. I often put it on the mindfulness or recover setting when I'm a little stressed out. If you're someone who has brain fog or ADHD, the Apollo actually can help you focus. My favorite setting is the focus mode. And I put it on before I write anything or help my daughter with her homework. It really gets me into a state of concentration. I can wear it on my wrist or my ankle or clip to my clothes. It pairs with your phone and then you can set it. You can also use Smart Vibes, which I've started using, and that takes sleep data from your Apollo. If you wear it for a week, to learn your body's patterns over time and automatically deliver the right support at the right time, day and night. So, as a special gift to our podcast listeners, Apollo is offering $99 off the purchase of any device. Just go to apolloneuro.com/astrotwins and use the code astrotwins for $99 off. Again, that's apolloneuro.com/astrotwins with code astrotwins for $99 off.
Now, this is an interesting thing. I just looked up when the Louisiana Purchase was, and
Mm.
that was on April 30th, 1812. So Louisiana is a Taurus, just had its solar return because
Hmm.
states, countries, cities actually have birthdays and birth charts too. Louisiana is also in the news for another reason. On Friday, a lower court there, uh, had a ruling that applies federally that basically cuts off the abortion pill, mifepristone, from being mailed anywhere. So there are people in states where abortion has been banned. We're having to rely on the pill in order to even deal with potentially like an ectopic pregnancy. So now two companies that make the drug have asked the Supreme Court on Saturday, this past weekend, to hit pause on that lower court ruling that is cutting off telemedicine to people across the nation. Louisiana, it's
Hmm.
interesting that it just had its solar return and Uranus is out of Taurus now, and now all of a sudden it's kind of rising up with these two very significant cases. So this Monday, we have Mars in Warrior Aries doing combat with Jupiter in Cancer, which does rule homeland security and women's rights and protection of the people. Civil rights, marginalized communities are now less protected than ever. Jupiter in Cancer has not created safety for
No.
anyone but white supremacists, I feel like, over the
Yeah.
here in the United
It's
States.
amplified and expanded the worst of cancer, the xenophobia, the protectionism, the insular, this is my home, not yours, the anti-immigrant sentiment.
And
Kick it to Leo fast
pronatalism,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
Pronatalism too.
The
Like
trad wives, the
yeah, I saw
turning
there's a
point.
country singer who, like a white country singer, redid Janet Jackson's 90s song, Let's Wait a While. Okay, Janet Jackson in the 90s, sexually liberated time in history, singing a song about waiting to have sex. Context, great, okay. But now, in the where we are now, with all the religious nationalism going on, and this, it's like, oh my God, it just hits so different, It's like, I think people are waiting a
Well,
while.
that it's, yeah, I mean, there's so many things that are just, I mean, there's hip hop in Iran Lego videos, AI generated. Hip hop is middle aged. It's in its 50s, like, and it's been co-opted by all of these white supremacists too, ironically. So we're at a late stage version of a lot of things.
We
The
are.
culture is definitely moving into a new era, which is what, we said last year was named. Our theme was the year of the divine pendulum, where we got a little sneak preview of the second half of the decade as Uranus, Saturn, and Neptune swung into the planet, into the zodiac signs they've now settled into for the long haul. So, as of April 25th, the last pendulum planet has settled into place, and here we are. So, we're in this age of air, as many astrologers are calling it, air and fire. We're in the yang half of the decade of disruption, and here we are, adjusting to that. So, I mean, we've never experienced Neptune and Aries in our lifetimes, and unless you were alive in the 1940s, which some of our listeners were, you haven't experienced Uranus and Gemini before either. So, history doesn't always repeat itself, but sometimes it rhymes, as Mark Twain said. And we're seeing those themes, we're watching them happen again as they converge with 2026 and 2027, which everyone from Nostradamus to Edgar Casey saw as years when humanity would really reach a turning point. So, um, this week, Pluto goes retrograde, and Pluto's in
Mhm.
Aquarius, which rules society, government, anything group and infrastructure, the
Technology as well,
population,
science,
yeah,
democracy.
democracy, all the worries about depopulation come from Pluto and Aquarius too, because Pluto is the god of the underworld, and at one end of the spectrum, it's associated with death. So the death of democracy is upon us. In fact, I heard today that I think it's a Swedish organization, nonprofit, I believe, that has now removed the United States from the list of countries that qualify as a liberal democracy for the first time ever.
The
So,
United States has been
yeah,
removed from that list.
the fact that that has happened just tells us, I mean, the UN and NATO were formed during Uranus and Gemini, and
But the question, here we go, with Pluto being the Phoenix planet.
it's
Did
also
we ever
rebirth.
really have democracy here? We had democracy for a few
Yeah,
and efforts to try, maybe democracy in its form is not the answer going forward. Then we need a new, maybe it's the matriarchy, maybe it's democratic socialism. Like this is the thing, like we're also having to undo like a lot of old thinking about how we went to school in the United States. We pledged allegiance to a flag. We heard about how democracy was the greatest thing ever. And you know what? It's people say it's a giant experiment. I think it's the best thing going out there in many ways, but it has so many loopholes. It's like we are being asked to change systems, and this is only going to keep going. Like the systems and the structures and the ways that we live and interact with each other. And over the next couple years we have these minor grand trines. It's, if you were to draw a line between these three planets in the sky, it would look like kind of a low pyramid,
hmm,
like a single story pyramid, wide one. And so we have Uranus and Pluto trining each other in this very free flowing circuit between them, an air sign. So new ideas, Uranus and Gemini changing the way we
a lot of
communicate.
innovation.
Yeah, Pluto and Aquarius transforming society. But then right now, for the next couple years, sitting in between them and forming what we call a sextile is Neptune in Aries, which is like could be like illusions around power, abuse of
Deception.
power, but also compassionate power too, and things brewing, in these really like behind the veil. As much as, there, for all we know, there could be a powerful new person who's just being born under this minor grand trine over the next couple years, who has that signature in their chart,
Yep.
and maybe that compassionate leader. I mean, this is a
Let's wait a while, as Janet said, because it's going to be a minute before those your minor grand trine baby is old enough to be a world leader. Well, who knows? All rules seem to be subject to reinterpretation and change.
right. The
But with
Dalai
Pluto,
Lama is chosen at age 5. So,
right, right. Well, with Pluto going retrograde, I think the flaws of democracy and so-called democracy are going to be talked about a lot more. And Aquarius is also technology. So is Uranus, Gemini, Pluto and Aquarius retrograde, all the AI stuff that's coming up, for example. I mean, Elon Musk and Sam Altman are battling it out in the courtroom. I was doing some
yeah, what's
research
going
about
on with that?
OpenAI. So OpenAI was formed, I believe, in 2015 as a nonprofit originally, and it
Mm.
was supposed to be very much about contributing all or most of its profits to the common good because they knew that AI could be dangerous. And then when Sam Altman took over, he made some new, like they carved it up a couple of years later, I think in 2019, right after the last Leo North Node period, which is historically, as we've talked about in the last few shows, when kind of greedy gold rush mentality kicks in, and that was 2017 and 18. So OpenAI comes out with these
Mm.
supposedly noble intentions. The first the first real machine learning neural networks came out with something called AlexNet, this image recognition event. in 2012. That was when it was debuted, and that was the big splash. So 2015, OpenAI comes out as a nonprofit
Mm,
with Elon Musk and Sam Altman. And then it got turned into sort of, it got like redistricted where it got carved up in 2019 where parts of it could be for profit, receive some
mm.
capped amount of venture capital and investment. And that set the stage for where we find ourselves now. Everything that
Interesting.
happened in
Interesting.
2008 and 9, which was the last time we had an Aquarius North Node, then again in 2017, 18, and the years around it was when a lot of the greed came in. That was also when we had the first crypto initial public offering from crypto that was created when we had an Aquarius North Node in 2009. That's when Bitcoin was created. And now we find ourselves at that next Aquarius North Node at the end of July for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And we're
Right.
going to see what is to come of all of this AI mania. I mean, it's so hard to tell. And with Uranus and Gemini, we are going to get such conflicting stories. On the one hand, you know, we went through the dot-com era and we remember how freaked out people were about it, especially in publishing and how it was disrupting everything. But on the other hand, AI
They
is
weren't
moving at
wrong. Yeah.
unprecedented speed and doing so much damage with the data centers. I'm so torn because, I really am someone who wants women to be empowered around technology too, but the propensity for harm is so high as well that I think this Pluto and Aquarius is going to phase Pluto retrograde from May 6th to October 15th is going to really, I think, show us some of the drawbacks that we're going to need to deal with.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think and also though calling out some new systems, some new like this is it's just all since it's so covering like the lead up to the midterm elections. Like I do think that we are going to see some grassroots organizing happening in ways that are really surprising. And
Yeah, that's the opportunity of Uranus and Gemini because Gemini rules neighborhoods and local, kind of micro communities.
mm-hmm.
One of the things I was researching for my talk at Summit at Sea when I was doing some future casting was microgrids, where
Mm.
organizations are groups and small neighborhood areas are looking at creating their own energy grids to share. I mean, we're going to see new
Wow.
forms of power. I think uranium, nuclear, and wind are really aligned with Aquarius. And solar power is very much aligned with Leo. So mid 2030s is our next Leo North node. So I
Wow.
think we're moving into a solar era, but we're about 9 or 10 years maybe away from it at its peak. And yeah, we'll see what human beings do in the
A
meantime.
lot is, I mean, we're in such between now and 2030, we're just in such a time. Like this is one of those moments, and we have to remember that and those I remind myself, my soul chose to incarnate at this moment in time. Like
Hmm.
instead of being, and I think maybe since Uranus moved out of Taurus already, I feel a little more loosening up in my ability to adopt that attitude as like, why is this happening? Everything's falling apart. Okay, it is. It is. Life is, and we don't know. This is a time of unscripted change, although there's a script running in the background. But like human beings have always come up with surprising responses, but we have a fundamental desire for self-determination as individuals.
Yeah.
And that word, it's such a big word. Like Palestinians have the right to self-determination. Jews have the right to self-determination. That was the foundation of Israel. So it's like the self-determination desire is something that is, we have been very lucky to have under the democracy that we've had up until, the last year and a half here. But it's something that I think human beings, even in the most fascist environments, will find their way to do it, even in secret. So I think that urge for that with Saturn and Neptune and Aries will not die. And so what, we are, it is kind of the frog in the boiling pot of water, what's happening with, it's just like they flood the zone with like so many crazy news stories. And oh, now we're starting a war. Now we're going for Cuba. Now we're building a ballroom.
Wait,
And then,
what happened with Venezuela? What happened with,
right. Well, Venezuela.
Minnesota, ICE,
Right.
yeah,
I don't even remember that
Cuba? Yeah.
anymore. It's like, I know, it's
Cartels in
ridiculous.
Mexico. I mean, it's just, it's wild how determined by the
Well, it's just
news
like
our
we are
reality
making
is.
everywhere. It's like, let's make a mess here. Let's make a mess here. Let's make a mess here, which is, and then just go in and scoop up everything we can. And it's not even conspiratorial to say that right now, which is the saddest part of all. However, this
Yeah.
is where we find ourselves.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, we have to.
Well, speaking of grassroots activism, one of the sacred cows of society that's crumbling, it's one that I've never
Mm,
personally cared about so much, but is the Met Gala. I mean,
right.
it was always Anna Wintour's kind of imperious
Yeah.
night. But now this year, she's retired from Vogue and it's being sponsored by Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez. The price of tickets, I think, has gone up to $100,000. I
Are
mean,
you
there's
kidding?
celebrities boycotting, the mayor's not going, and yeah, it's revealing.
Interesting.
I think it's such the thing on the cusp of Pluto and Aquarius, Pluto retrograde in Aquarius this week because that's power with Pluto and Aquarius with tech. I think tables are sponsored by like OpenAI. And on that note too, there's been a lot of
Mm.
noise about how crappy Claude has gotten. A lot of people left ChatGPT because of Sam Altman and his just surveillance and cooperation with the war. And we thought that Anthropic, which owns Claude, had refused to let the government use their technology for the war and weapons of mass destruction. So a lot of people I know like canceled their Chat GPT subscriptions and went over to
I did.
Claude.
And
Yeah,
now, and then not only that, but they just were like, okay, well, we're just gonna, oops, we're gonna experiment with a new model. And people are mad because, I mean, with Chat GPT, it's like, well, this was the first thing, and you kind of had to sign on.
kind of expected it to be like a basic bitch of AI in a
But even
way.
it was like the choice was made to move over to Anthropic as almost like a statement of like, you are a company that has values that I can stand behind. Oh wait, now you're not anymore. So it's just like the
Yeah,
bait
I mean,
and
they've
switch of it all.
depreciated the quality of everything, and it's like everybody came over there, and the thanks they got was crappier output and questionable morals, which were always questionable anyways. So it was like the lesser of two evils, but now who knows if it even is? It just has better fonts. We'll see where this all goes, but overall, we're new to this era. And
Mhm.
I remember, we lived through Pluto's transit into Scorpio in the 80s, which brought the AIDS crisis. Pluto in Sagittarius, which rules publishing and travel, which brought global connectivity and the internet and the complete transformation of the publishing industry in the mid 90s. And Pluto in Capricorn, 2008 to 24, which is government and companies and
Mm-hmm.
real estate and hierarchy. And we had our first black president. And the gig economy was created. We can look back and see the articles that we wrote all the way back into the early 2000s about
Yeah.
Uranus going to Aries and Taurus or Pluto and Capricorn. And I remember at one point Pluto and Capricorn put a woman on the $20 bill, Harriet Tubman, before she
Oh,
was
that's
removed
right.
by a racist president. At the early stages of Pluto, and Pluto's in Aquarius till 2044, it just went in November 2024. We're still in the early days. It's
Mm-hmm.
always worse before it gets better. It's because the
It's
phoenix rises from the ashes. Like we said, we're seeing the death of the illusion of democracy, but we may see the reincarnation or the birth of something that's a purer democracy. The
yeah,
last
that's the
time
hope,
Pluto went,
right?
yeah, last time Pluto went into Aquarius, we got the US dollar. They had
Mm.
the Continental was their currency that they issued during the Revolutionary War and at the beginning in the 1770s. And it was counterfeited, overprinted. There was massive inflation. And so they had to
Mm.
take it off the market and come out with the US dollar. So Pluto will also expose the weaknesses in
That's
some.
true.
So,
And look, it's there are we just are having to rethink the way we do
yeah.
society. There's so much uncertainty, and uncertainty is the scariest thing. But interestingly, in Kabbalah, having certainty in uncertainty is one of the practices of Kabbalah, like
Mm.
certainty that, as they say, the creator has a better plan if the plan that you're with right now isn't working out. Now, it's hard to say that when people
Well, yeah.
are having to struggle to afford groceries
But
and
that is one great Aquarius person who was actually at Summit at Sea, David Guillaume, who is a former Kabbalah teacher who now has his own platform. He has a lot of wisdom about what you're talking about. That
Mhm.
a great podcast that we can link out to also. So he explains it in a really interesting way as humanity being at a choice point, which I believe we are,
Mm.
especially as we approach 2027. We're ending this 412-year cycle next February 15th that began in 1615 in human design, the planning era. The cross of planning is called. And the first, you could say, colonizers, gold rush seekers came to Jamestown in 1607. So really that era began right at the very beginning of the colonizing of the United States, and it's ending February 15th, 2027. So I don't even know how much we can reference past
I know,
cycles or
it's
if
true.
history will even rhyme or repeat. I think we're really being pushed into that next phase.
I
So,
agree. I think so too. And I think that we are going to learn to use more of our brains than we've had
yeah.
access to, but maybe AI is going to do some of the other kind of thinking for us. And, you know, we
Maybe we'll
talk.
access some other dimensions. I mean, you never know.
Mhm.
Well, we do have a quarter moon, a balancing quarter moon. Every week there's either a new moon, then 2 weeks later a full moon, but in between is a quarter moon. And this week is a quarter moon in Aquarius on Mother's Day, Sunday, May 10th, or Saturday, maybe depending on where you live.
Hmm.
But so Aquarius is really the theme sign, even though we're in Taurus season. It's making a strong presence, strong showing this week. And quarter moon in Aquarius is hopefully a balance point to humanity. It's between a full moon and a new moon. We have the full moon on May 1st, and then we have a new in Scorpio. I don't know if you guys had an intense weekend or Friday last week, but it was very whew, I just felt it. And then May 16th is the Taurus new moon. So we're in the in-between point as the moon wanes from full to new. So maybe something got revealed in the light of the Scorpio full moon that you feel you need to transform in
Mm.
some way. Well, this Aquarius quarter moon is a good time to kind of step back from the feelings that got stirred up or the changes that got awakened by Uranus's move into Gemini and do a little bit of that evaluating, not just how something affects you, but how it affects the group, the collective, your community, your friends, your colleagues, whatever groups you're part of. It's a really good moment to kind of evaluate the dynamics of them and how much you even feel right about them, your own technology and social media usage. I mean, maybe you will want to opt out of using AI. As AI depreciates for me, I
Hmm?
just keep thinking, you know what? I never wanted to rely on this anyway.
Right.
Like we're being told, we're being sold our own, like, it is gaslighting in a way. It's like, oh, you can't do this as well as
Right.
Chat GPT, so let it just do the thinking for you. But we human beings are gifted with the ability to do pattern recognition, and there is no originality. We've seen that overly polished, slick
Mm.
syntax of AI or the AI images that are just a little too perfect, or the music or the sound.
And
I
people
said last
don't want
week,
it. They don't
no.
they don't want we don't want that.
People want novelty and imperfection. That's what actually keeps the brain awake and causes dopamine to be released
Mm.
from a neurochemical perspective. So, I mean, I said it last week. I think that I thought the Lego videos, people were just going to get used to them. And I
Yeah,
felt
they've
like,
they've
should I have
gotten
said that?
old.
But
Yeah.
they did in the past week. It's like that happened. It's like too many,
Hmm.
too much. So, yeah, I
They really
think
are pumping them out. Like, come on already, enough. They're getting, I mean, it's just like, okay, you've shown that you can AIify hip hop. Well, that's starting to get annoying.
scarcity has been used against people or weaponized in marketing, but the human brain does like some amount of scarcity in terms of specialness. We like things that are
Hmm.
unique and special. That's how we create moments and memories. And I read something
Yeah.
a while ago about how our sense of time is kind of flattened out because we don't know
Mm.
whether something is a memory or not, because we are kind of dipping in and
Interesting.
out of all these virtual timelines. So we're not having the nostalgia that we used to have. I mean, we're all kind of the same age. That was not a thing, like in terms of what we're exposed to. We all have access to the same
So
media
basically,
and
people
pop
are
culture.
blaming everything on menopause brain in our age group, but it's actually not even that. It is just like, no, you're overloaded and flooded, and you can't even remember the timelines anymore. Is that what you're saying?
It's probably both of those things. I mean, I'm still shocked by how many women don't know about hormone replacement therapy. As many do as don't. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the first as Gen Xers, like we're the first ones for anyone to talk about menopause in any kind of empowering way. I'll never forget that episode of The Golden Girls where Blanche went into menopause and it was like the end of her life and her beauty and this. And actually, I believe I got my period
I
that
think you
day.
did
I
actually. I
did.
remember
So,
that you were
yeah,
babysitting, and it was like
yeah. I was like,
we're
wow.
cracking up about that.
Oh
Yep.
my God. Yeah, that's right. But our brain patterns are being rewired, and kids are never even getting to form some of the neural pathways that they should because of their exposure to technology.
I mean, the thing is like the cross of planning, these last 400 plus years in human design, we had a structure, a system. You go to school, you go to work, you do
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
you need your brain for this. This is the kind of human you are. So, February 15th, 2027, the cross of the sleeping phoenix begins for over 400 years. So, it's like a different kind of world, a different kind of human, and allowing ourselves to open up to the idea that, we contain multitudes and we have lots of parts of ourselves, like our physicality, for example, has languished as we've become more sedentary. Um,
And yet we're also living longer and have access to longevity that is unprecedented too. I mean, my daughter's
yeah,
graduating high school in 2028 after 2027 as we enter the
it's
era of the
wild.
sleeping phoenix. I mean, a lot of people I know who have kids in their preteens and teens are thinking that too. And yeah, so anyway, I think it's all up for evaluation in these next couple years. And Pluto retrograde in Aquarius is going to give us a 5 month window to really do some contemplation on that. And the second half of the year definitely is too. So Mother's Day, let's do a little Mother's Day forecast.
Yeah,
So,
Mother's Day. This is the first time in over a decade that Jupiter's been in Cancer on Mother's Day.
mm,
Uh, Jupiter being the planet of abundance, of travel, of study, of philosophy. So definitely not the year to just do the old brunch and go kind of thing, like maybe get something thought provoking for your
especially with that quarter
mom.
moon.
Yeah, there's a quarter moon, like um go to a lecture together, get tickets to a special documentary or a series or something kind of mind expanding, or go for a
A day
drive.
trip.
Even if you
Yeah.
do brunch, do it somewhere,
Something
you know.
adventurous and not the same old. I mean, it could be nostalgic, but put a new twist on it if you do.
Yeah, because Jupiter in Cancer still is nostalgic, and it's going to be sextile the Taurus sun. So there's this really nice energy for like any,
A
even if you go,
favorite thing that you did that you haven't done in a while
but
could be
also
nice.
like even something outdoorsy, kind of, or the
Yeah.
earth thing. Maybe it's like a flower arranging workshop, or
Learning.
maybe you
Yeah.
plant tomatoes together. That's a Father's Day thing, but not, why
Doesn't
can't
have
it
to
be a
be.
Mother's Day thing? Or you get like organic, facials, something that's a
That could be fun.
little more, not just the typical thing, something that's more in touch with the earth and the environment. I'm thinking of the sun and Taurus's influence. Um,
Hmm.
and with the quarter moon in Aquarius, some technology, like a digital frame or something like that. There's a lot of, well, just let your mind open a little bit. Books are also good, things like that. It
Books
all
are always
depends on the
good.
mom, but I'm sure
Yeah.
you as a mom appreciate books. Probably won't be
I
getting
probably
any.
won't be getting one, but I think I'll be doing something with my daughter and my friend's daughter who goes to college nearby and her mom is across the country. So we'll go do something fun. Very Jupiter and Cancer, a girls group day. That'll be fun. So we can wrap it up by talking about the new human design gate of the week, the sun's
Mm-hmm.
travel through gate 2. This is I Ching hexagram 2 human design. Uh, is the I Ching 64 hexagrams layered over the 12 zodiac signs. So for about 5 days, the sun goes through one of those as well. So it's going to be in gate 2, which is in the G center, the identity center on the body graph.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's the gate of higher knowing. It's about following your intuition, even though the G center isn't really only into it. It's like it's the knowing that you're sort of trusting in the direction that you're being pulled in that really feels the most like you, the least like you're forcing it,
Mm-hmm.
and the most guided. So it's a week to kind of surrender. We've been in last week was the gate of rationalization, and it was a thinking kind of, it's like when we really process our thoughts a lot. It was an ajna, which is the mind week. So if you were to spend a lot of time last week analyzing everything, ruminating, obsessing, dissecting, it's a totally different kind of
Or
force.
even learning how to do things. Like
Yeah,
I
I do like
I
the Ajna weeks for that.
I made good on my word and spent the Scorpio full moon in Beltane planting, but I had my amazing Virgo neighbor Pamela, who's like a gardening queen, come over and show me how to properly plant my dahlias. She's from the UK. She calls them dahlias. It's really cute, and suggested tomatoes in one area. But yeah, it was just really, it was like, oh, I actually asked for
It was a
help. So,
good
but I
learning
learned
week.
that, yeah, it was.
Yeah, I did a lot of learning and thinking and dissecting too. Learned how to, I finally started playing around with this video camera I got, and I'd signed up for this girl's course on how to create cinematic Instagram reels. It's a week for allowing. And
Mhm.
it's one of the gates. It makes a channel to the sacral with the gate of power skills, gate 14. When you have um, a planet in one of these kind of end points of a channel, it forms this flow. So it's power skills is Scorpio Sagittarius. Gate 2, that's gate 14. Gate 2 is Taurus. So it's a combination of those energies. And it's, but this week is really about being receptive and allowing that divine guidance. You are enough. Just allowing who you are to flow outward and come out and lead the way. Like you don't need, last week was learning things, and now it's like, wait, okay, that's great that I know that, but it's not about what I know with my mind, it's what I know with myself. So it'll be interesting to see what that brings.
Like you said earlier, we're past the shock. I can't believe they did that. And, like, even though
It's time for
it's
some solutions, and it's time for some new ideas, new
new
conversations, new
strategies.
ways of setting up our communities, getting our needs met, from education to housing to energy to food and daily lifestyle. And we're going to be seeing a lot of that as Uranus moves through
Mhm.
Gemini between now and 2033. Happy Mother's Day week. Good
Happy.
luck with all the changes as Pluto goes retrograde. And if you would like to get on our calendar for an astrology reading, get on there. The summer is filling up. You can go to astrostyle.com/readings and book a session. Plan out the second half of your year. Make the most out of the summer. There's a lot of changes with the North Node going to Aquarius, Jupiter going into Leo, all the new placements, new energy for you to tap into. So book a session, find out where the opportunity is for you to get into the driver's seat of your life.
Thanks for tuning in to AstroTwins Radio. If today's episode gave you an aha moment, we'd be over the moon if you left us a 5-star review. It helps fellow astrology lovers find us. And make sure to hit subscribe and follow us on iTunes and Spotify so you never miss an episode. Want the full visual experience? You can also watch the video version on our YouTube at AstroTwins-TV. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at AstroTwins and head over to astrostyle.com to read your free daily, weekly, and monthly horoscope that we write for you with love. Until next time, move with intention and let the universe meet you there.